Hello and welcome to Musical Minutes number 12. I'm Carol Cowan, Director of Music here at IUCC. And we're going to start with the trivia question. Which of the following is a direction specifically for the performance of handbells? Okay, is it A, march, B, let vibrate, C, thumb damp, or D, all of the above? And the answer is all of the above. And our bell choir is going to love this question because they're going to get, all of them are going to get this one right. So they're real happy about this one. Okay, so today what we're going to talk about is we're going to do our part 2 of our handbell segment. And this time Lisa's going to talk about these very techniques that our question is on. So I'm going to now turn it over to Lisa Izzo.
Thank you, Carol. The last time when I talked about bells, I talked about the basics of how to ring a bell and how to damp a bell, and I talked about the technique of using a mallet to ring the bell. Today I want to talk about some of the other techniques that bell ringers use when they're in choirs. One of those techniques is called plucking, and that's where the bell ringer will actually put their hand on the mallet itself and push it down into the table. Now it's a little bit easier to do that with these bigger bells than it would be with a little bell like this, where it's hard to get your fingers in there to pluck. Another method that actually works better with the small bells is called thumb damping. And that's where the ringer actually puts the thumb right on the bell when they ring it. So you can hear the tone, but it sounds different than when you ring it regularly. Now if I try to do that with a big bell, you can hear there's a little bit more reverberation from that bell because the bell is bigger. So if I'm going to try to thumb damp with a bigger bell, I need to maybe wrap 2 fingers around it to get that deadening quality. Another thing that you will hear frequently at the end of a piece is shaking. Again, much easier to do with a little tiny bell like this than a bell like this, where I kind of have to shake my whole body to get the shake in there. Now there's something that you will probably never see this church's bell choir do, and that's called a tower swing. And that's where the person takes the bell and they ring it, and then they bring it down and back up. And you can hear how the tone comes and goes. But in our space, we don't have a lot of room for that. And so we would be likely to damage the bells or our neighbors if we do the tower swings. So we don't do that here. Another method that is one of the ones from our question today is called the martellato. Now we call it marting. And that's when the bell ringer takes the bell and they hold it about 3 or 4 inches above the table and just push it down into the table like this to get a slightly different deadening sound. And particularly because we have corduroy covers, we get a different sound than some people who have other kinds of fabric because of the way the corduroy makes the sound. You have to be careful if you're marting not to go too high, and you have to be careful not to push it too hard because you could actually damage the bells. What I do want to say is it's really, really hard for a whole bell choir to all have their bells at just the right height and all hit the table at just the same time. So if you ever hear a bell choir do that, where they all really nail that spot, you want to make sure to comment on what a good job they did hitting that mart. Most of these are not techniques that I can do when I'm doing bell solos, but the one thing that you will regularly see me do, because that's the way the music is written for solos, is called Shelley ringing. And that's where the bell ringer picks up 2 bells at the same time, crossing the handles, and then rings them together. So instead of this sound and this sound, I have the 2 sounds together like a chord. So those are the different kinds of techniques that people use when they're ringing handbells. Carol and I are going to play 2 pieces today. One of them is actually a hymn medley. They should all be familiar tunes for you. And hopefully, as you listen, at least one of these tunes will sort of touch a chord in you and give you some peace during this really uncertain time that we're all living in. The first piece that we're going to play today is called My Shepherd Will Supply My Need, and it's arranged by Dick Wall.
Our second piece is titled Hymn Medley, arranged by Christine Anderson.